All right, Matt, let's give these investors some insight that when you're flipping a property or preparing it to be a buy and hold property, how they should be looking at their flooring options, right? So from low grade to high grade, we know we got, linoleum, carpet, vinyl sheets, all the way up to laminate, vinyl plank, wood floors, tile floors, marble from Italy, expensive, right? So how would you advise investors to look at what they should be putting in their investment properties?
It depends on the overall budget for the rehab and what we can work in. If we're gonna go with tile, it's gonna be a lot more expensive to lay, but will give us a lot better finish when we're done. And it is a little bit higher end, but for the price point of this property specifically, we went with LVP. Very durable, very sturdy, good for long use for what we're trying to accomplish here.
Right, now if this was a buy and hold property, would you have done the same thing?
It really just comes down to if I could work in my budget.
The budget.
I've wanted to do tile, but me wanting to do tile doesn't supersede that cost that we're hitting.
Right, and that's something that we see time and time again, where investors will want to put in what they want to put in. And while that's nice, once you start operating that way, we're not saying you can't do it, it's your money, it's your house, but you're not operating as an investor at that point. From an investor, it always goes back to the numbers. And that's one of the things we always talk about with investors. When they say, well, can we do this? Can we do that? We go, what do the numbers say? What do the numbers look like? And so if the numbers have changed, let us know. But you always want to remember that. So what's great about this flooring is that you get a high quality finish, a look, but it's because it's on the lower end of cost, you can put it in properties and give people a higher quality of flooring than you maybe see in other homes.
And that's why we chose this, and we didn't do carpet at all because it didn't make sense to, normally we do carpet in the bedroom, but because the house was only 1,000 square feet, it was just made sense to do the whole thing LVP.
You can't mess up the kitchen.
You can't, but you can easily overspend in the kitchen if you're not careful.
Right, and so from an investment standpoint, here's what you need to watch out for when you're looking at a property, a fixer-upper, and what you need to pay attention to when you're looking at the kitchen. Number one, the cabinets. Are you going to replace the cabinets, or are you able to keep the cabinets? You want to look at the condition of the cabinets, because based on your budget, if there's a way for you to keep the cabinets, keep them the same, leave them there, or restain them, repaint them, that can help tremendously. Countertops, don't just go by your preference, or don't even just go by only your budget. You need to look at your comps. You need to look at buyers and the demographic of buyers looking to buy in your area. They're not buying houses with granite, don't put granite. If they're not buying houses with quartz, don't put quartz, right? So things of that nature. So Matt, what are some of the things that we did and had to consider on this property and how we built out the kitchen?
So we had to consider what we're building the property for and who we're building it for. So for this specific project, they needed a higher end finish, so we had to go and replace the cabinets with these soft close cabinets, which were just a little bit more expensive, but because we only had so much room to work with, we had to pump a little bit extra money into the kitchen to make it nice. We also finished it out with the granite. I believe this is a Dallas white granite. Went with a nice backsplash, tile backsplash. You can go lower end backsplash and just something that you can just slap on there, but these were individual tiles that they just laid, so it came out really nice.
Yeah, and what I love about the kitchen is the color choice as well.
Oh yeah, the colors were solid, and actually these were on sale, so we chose them because they were on sale and they look great.
Mama taught you right.
Yes.
So guys, when it comes to the kitchen, like Matt said, a lot of people just go, oh, every kitchen's gonna cost this much. Well guys, what if you have less cabinets? What if you have less counter space? What if you have a bigger kitchen with a bigger island? These are all things that do what, Matt? They affect the numbers, they affect the budget. And so this kitchen turned out great. The homeowner for this home fell in love with the kitchen, so we're excited about them taking over this home. So I hope these tips, tricks, and strategies helped you guys, and you make sure you have what you need when you're renovating your next kitchen.
To cut costs in renovations, a lot of investors try to hold on to the old toilet, the old tub, the old sink, and reuse them. In this case, we really couldn't, because this was a 1980s bathroom. It had a pink toilet and a pink tub and a blue sink and a bunch of pink little square tiles all the way around the wall. It even had a window here. It was a giant window, and it was just rotted after the years of the water just hitting the window. So we deleted the window, tiled over it, got the new tub, new toilet, new sink. It cost us a couple $100 more per fixture that we were installing, but it goes a long way with the finished product and ties everything together really nice.
Many times you won't even see this issue pop up on HGTV. Like, it happens on every house. Doesn't even get it, right? So in the real world, electrical, AC, roofs, like you have to consider them, right? And for a lot of investors, electrical costs are always more than what they initially expect, or it's way more than what they could have done. So here's just some quick tips on when you're looking at a fixer-upper, what you want to look at from an electrical standpoint. Number one, does the property already have an HVAC and a dryer? Because depending on the size of a panel, the electrical box that's there may not be able to handle you installing an HVAC system or a dryer because the voltage is different. Another thing you got to look at is, do you see bulbs? If you see bulbs, just know right away you're gonna have to rewire the whole house if you want to be up to code. And then after that, it's pretty much what works, what doesn't work, what's up to code, what's grandfathered in for your local city, county, things of that nature. So Matt, let's talk about the journey and the conversations that we had with this particular property when it came to electrical.
It's funny you mentioned the bulbs, like the little fuse bulbs you're talking about,
Yes.
right? Yeah, so those we actually had. This panel didn't
On
exist.
this one?
Yeah, this panel wasn't here. It didn't exist. We had our electric panel in the closet of another room, and it had just like 6 or 7 of those big bulb fuses. I mean, from the 1980s, maybe somewhere further back.
Yeah.
Before my time. So we had to completely rewire the house. I mean, you couldn't save it and just add a new panel because the wires were so old. I mean, and you can't just replace the plugs, switches, and outlets and hope for the best because it's a safety hazard. So you may as well expose all the wires and rewire the entire house.
The reason why electrical is so important, because you have to understand, many times when you go to sell a property, the buyers are going to be doing an inspection, and the electrical is one of the main things the inspector is going to check. But if you do all the renovations for your property and you don't address the electrical issues, and then now you go to sell the property and there's all these issues with your electrical, you're going to have to go back and redo things. You have to cut through the walls, repaint. It's a whole headache. So make sure you do your proper inspection on the electrical and you know what you need to do. But the good news is when you do it right, everything is gravy after that.
Yeah, and it all comes down to when you're walking the property initially, you want to factor in electric to your budget. If the panel looks old, if it looks like it's going to need it, because the investors on this project hadn't considered that they would need to do as extensive as electrical work as we ended up needing to do. But once we explained the safety hazards, they had to bite the bullet and just eat the cost. Let's talk termite damage. If you ever suspect termite damage, the only way to see where it goes is by exposing the wood underneath the sheetrock.
Matt, we can't just knock on the walls and...
No. I'd love to say that that would work, but we tried that in this case. Project management was brought into this project while the buyer was under contract. So we noticed termite damage when we walked the property to do our rehab estimate. I mentioned, hey, you may want to budget an additional like couple $1,000s for replacing any lumber that's damaged, because we know for sure this section had termite damage, but none of the other walls were exposed. Once we got into the project, we had to expose not only this area, but keep exposing the wall and the ceiling until we stopped finding areas that had termite damage. It was pretty extensive and ended up costing about another $1,500, I think, in just wood to go and replace everything that needed to be replaced. And after you get the termite damaged wood replaced, you have to have a termite company come in and treat the entire house to prevent future termites from infesting. And if you don't do that step, which is replace the wood and then treat the wood, you won't qualify for certain home loans afterwards because they know that the house had termite damage that wasn't fully repaired. So let's talk budgets and problem solving. So we had a window here, an old window, and on this house we ended up replacing all the windows. When we redid the foundation, the window had cracked, so we had to replace this specific window, but the brick around the outside of both windows had started to fall off, and we didn't have any extra brick that would match, and our options were kind of limited. We could either redo this section in brick and it would look slightly different than the rest of the house because the bricks that we were finding couldn't match exact, or do this nice wood paneling. So Lala was nice enough to do this wood paneling all around for us and take care of this problem we had, and it was actually a much less expensive solution than adding another window and reframing it with the brick. So we're able to help out our investors by saving them some money with that.
Yeah, and Matt brings up a very good point. As an investor, you always have to remember you're making money because you're taking someone else's problem and you're figuring out a way to solve it. But as an investor, to make sure you keep your money that you think you're gonna make, you have to problem solve throughout the rehab process. And so this is just another way that they came up with great solutions, multiple solutions, and just figured out what's gonna be the best thing for the investor, for the future buyer, and for the budget, and for the project overall. Guys, again, this is what our project management service helps with. So if you need some assistance, if you need some additional wisdom, experience, let us know. We're happy to help.